All right, Journey Church family, it's time to quiet your hearts and your minds for the Word of God. Pastor Peter Jones is coming to deliver a word that is going to empower you, uplift you, and encourage you in your spirit today and help you to draw closer to God so that you can know who you are in Him and who He is to you.
Watched Pastor Maria last week, and she did such a great job opening up the series Habits, and she just transitioned nicely from where we were to where we want to go. And we had talked about the fact that a lot of us get all wrapped up into the where we're going and what we're going to do, and we look at the why we're doing it, but she got down and started talking about the how to do it. We had put a pause on it for the first part of our series. If you haven't seen the Build series, I encourage you to go on YouTube and watch it. That's when we talked about the what and the why, and now we're getting into the how. How do we create those habits to make sure that we accomplish what God has called us to do? And when I was thinking about her message and just focusing on what she was saying, one of the things I realized is that it's about 40% of what we do on a day-to-day basis, we do unconsciously. We do not do intentionally. So when you think about it, much of what you do normally isn't a result of a conscious choice, but a result of a daily habit. So think about if 40%, that's a large percentage. What should you really be doing intentionally that you said, I'm going to commit to doing, I want to do, but we just don't do? And I sat there and I'm going, wow, that's a powerful thing. I mean, you may know, you sit there and go, I don't know if that's so true, Peter, but think about it. Have you ever gotten, I used to drive to work every day, and I said I used to. I used to drive to work every day, and when I would drive into Mercedes-Benz, I would take the back road up here on Orange County 19, I would go down through Tuxedo, and I could tell you there were days I was driving down the road, I didn't even remember driving through a town. Don't even remember getting past Sloatsburg. Didn't remember going past that. It was just automatic, unconscious. Am I alone? You drive like that too, right? You shouldn't be driving like that, but you find yourself doing things on autopilot. And yet we sit there and think, oh, I'm doing something great. I got goals. I got, hashtag goals. I got things to do. And yet we're still just doing things out of habit. And we said that if we want to change our life, we want to change where we're going, we want to become something different. Pastor Maria talked about last week, it's the who that you want to be, not the do goals that you want to focus on. And she says, it's the who you want to become. If you want to change those habits, we got to be more intentional about what we are doing. And so today we're going to get a little bit deeper into that and realize that you're no different. Most people, as she said last week, have similar goals, but different results. And we always wonder, we admire the people and say, wow, how did they do that? And sometimes we sit there and say, oh, that was luck, or I don't know how they got that. But they worked hard at it. And they were doing things that were out of sight that you didn't know they were doing. When I look, I was looking the other day at Ashani on Instagram. And she's like, let me cover up. I was looking at her the other day on Instagram, and I was like, look at her dance. And somebody may say, well, man, when did she start dancing? And she could say, you don't realize I've been doing this since but because it's out of sight for you, doesn't mean that it's overnight. It just happened overnight for her. But yet, a lot of times we sit there and go, that's what I want, but we don't want to put the work in to get it done. and we secretly envy or are jealous or haters about the things that other people are doing. Can I just be real? You didn't realize you walked into a real church today with real people, you know? So we got to be aware that it takes something. Because successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. Successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. And I didn't realize Pastor Maria was going to reuse my graphic, but I love it. If you want to do something in your life you never had, you have to do something different that you never done. And so when I look at this and I look at this series, I was like, this is perfect, Pastor. I said, she did a great job transitioning us to get to where we're going. And now I got to take the burden of continuing this. I hope I can do as good as she did. But when I look at it, it says, she said last week, there are 3 reasons we don't succeed. We focus on the what, but don't understand the how. We focus on the what I want, but I don't pay attention to how to get there and what it is that I'm doing and how I'm doing to get there. We don't see progress fast enough. She says a lot of times we fail because we don't see progress fast enough. We think that the little good things that we're doing, they won't add up. But there's a cumulative value that's associated when you do little things, small things, over time, they build up and they have a significant value. Just look at your bank account. Just put, you like, don't go there, Pastor, don't go there. Yeah, just put a little bit over time in the bank and put it in the savings. Don't touch it. Just put a little bit over time. There's a cumulative value that'll be associated to you. When you look back over years of doing that practice, you sit there and, wow, I got a pretty good savings now. But a lot of times, because it didn't happen, you started putting that $100 away this week, you think next week you should be able to spend something with it. Or when you get you finally get $1,000 saved away, you go, man, this is more than I ever had saved away. And because it's more than you ever had, you're like, I can do something, but it's not what is needed. You say, man, I need more. But there's a cumulative value, and we don't see progress fast enough. So therefore, we don't succeed. We stop in our tracks. And then she said, our distorted identity sabotages our success. Because we fail, we end up seeing ourselves as failures. Because I didn't hit this goal, I see myself as a failure. Because I slipped in this area of my life, I thought I was going to do better. I thought I was going to eat better. But because I slipped, I might as well eat pie for the rest of the week. Those cupcakes, I might as well have those cupcakes for the rest of the day, I've already got to count this day out. I'm telling on myself, I'm just telling on myself, that's it. I'm not talking about you. So an unhealthy identity creates an unwise habit, and unwise habits create an unhealthy identity. So what are we going to do? We have to look at our habits, look at the things that we're doing, and we have to make a shift. We have to shift. And Pastor Maria, she really focused on this last week. She said, before you focus on do goals, focus on the who. So before I come up with a list of goals that I want to be and all the things I want to accomplish, I have to first stop, pause, and say, who is it that I want to be? And I was listening to a book while I was on the plane, and it just really stood out to me in emphasizing this point here. One of the things that the author was saying, and the book was called The Power of Imperfection. I believe that's what it's called, by Brené Brown. And what she was saying in the book was that she has a list of do goals. She has a list of all these goals that she wanted to be. And when she found out by looking at that list of do goals that she realized that it was always something more on the other end of the do. There was something more to add on to it. So it went not only from this is what I want to do, but by doing this, I'll be able to do something more. You know what I'm saying? It didn't end there. It was always, I want to get here so that I can do something else. And when she looked at her life, she said, I realized that all that did was kept me on this rat wheel of just keeping moving and moving and moving and moving and moving and never accomplishing things. She goes, but then when I look at the who goals, when I looked at who is it that we want to be, how, what's going to make me happy, what's going to make me satisfied, she goes, I looked at it and none of the do goals accomplished that. It was actually taking away from the do goals and looking at who they wanted to be. She wanted to spend more time with the family. Had nothing to do with all the do goals were distracting away from her spending time with her family. She wanted to have time to play with the grandkids, and all the do goals took away from time with playing with the grandkids. And I sit there and I said, what is it that we get so captivated with productivity or accomplishment of something that we have to do that it actually stops the who we want to be? Have you really looked at that? Have you really analyzed that in your life and said, who is it that I want? I want a successful marriage. I want a happy marriage. I want my wife and I to just to grow old together. But then we do all the stuff that takes us away from each other. Think about it. Where is it falling in your life? How's it prioritized in your life? So she said, our life is the sum total of all the small decisions that we make. And all the small decisions that we're making may be interrupting the who we want to be. See, successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. What other people do occasionally. Successful people realize the who and they focus on that. And that's the arena of life that makes them successful because they're focusing on what that is important. I believe this has been repeated over and over again. Pastor Maria started referencing Daniel last week. And I just want to just drill down into that story a little bit because I recognize Daniel from Daniel and the what? Yeah, lion's den. I know some people are like, I don't know, you help me out. It's Daniel in the lion's den, right? And so Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. And a lot of people say because he came out of the lion's den, healthy, living, breathing, that was great. They look at that success and they see that event and they think, wow, this is a great man of faith, mighty man of God. I want to have that type of faith. But when you look at Daniel's life, when you take and zoom in and look a little bit closer at Daniel's life, you start to see certain patterns. You start to see what made him prepared for the lion's den. He didn't just happen to one day say, oh, Lord, throw me in a lion's den. I want to show how great and mighty I am and what man of faith I am. Just show I'm your child. Lord, throw me in a lion. No. But he lived in such a way, he did things in certain ways so that he could be prepared for whatever situation was thrown at him. He could be seen as successful. Let's take a look at Daniel for a second. Daniel, the 6th chapter, the 1st verse. It says this. It says Darius reorganized. Darius was the king. He was deciding to reorganize his kingdom. He appointed 120 governors to administer all parts of his realm, all parts of the country. Over them were 3 vice regents. So that's like a northeast governor or regent, a Midwest regent, and a West Coast regent. That's like if you divided this country up into 3 realms. So that's what he did. Over them, he put 3 vice regents, one of whom was Daniel. The governors reported to the vice regents. who made sure that everything was in order for the king. It says, but Daniel, brimming with spirit and intelligence, so completely outclassed the other vice regents. So Daniel was successful. You can see there was something that he was doing that made him successful even up to this point, before he got to the lion's den. To the point where other people became haters. The other vice regents started being jealous of what Daniel was doing and all the attention Daniel was getting. And the governors, it says, so he was completely outclassed the other vice regents and governors, that the king decided to put him in charge of the whole kingdom. He didn't just get promoted out of nowhere. He got promoted because he was doing the current job that he was assigned well. I want you to hear that. Sometimes we're sitting there going, when I get there, then I'll start doing. But you got to do wherever it is that you are right now. If you're single, live single well. Do you know how attractive that is? It's ugly when you all falling apart, your life falling apart, and you sitting there going, I just want somebody to help me. I just want somebody to date me. I just want somebody to marry me. Why? And all the single people said, amen. I just want somebody to no, get your life well. Do what your singleness well. And you find that you get promoted too. Wherever it is that you are, you got to do that well. And that's what Daniel did. He did it completely. He outclassed. He says, I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to stay with what everyone else is doing. You see, it says successful people do what other people do occasionally. And where you say, well, they're getting by, so I'll just get by. No, Daniel didn't say that. Daniel said, I'm going to do whatever I do. I'm going to bring my best. I believe that's one of our values. I'm going to bring our best forward all the time. Number 7, just in case you didn't catch that. We're going to bring our best. And he says, I'm going to do that. And because he brought his best, he was in the habit, let me just be clear, he was in a habit of bringing his best, that he was going to be promoted by the king. Let's keep going. The vice regents and governors got together to find some old scandal or some skeleton in Daniel's life that they could use against him, but they couldn't dig up anything. So not only did he perform his job well, what we can see is that Daniel lived consistently a life that could not bring reproach up against him, that somebody could not talk about him or find something that is in his closet and pull out and use against him. He lived honorably. It was his practice, because the fact that they were going back to find something means it was his practice. It wasn't something that he was doing today. It was a practice of living a certain lifestyle. And so it says Daniel lived this way, but they couldn't find anything. So this is what they decided to do. They said this: we're never going to find anything against this Daniel unless we can cook up something religious. So they found an area of Daniel's life that was important to Daniel. And they said, this is the only area that we can attack Daniel. Let's go on. So the vice regents, they said this: for the next 30 days, they say this to the king, for the next 30 days, no one is to pray to any god or mortal except you, O king. Anyone who disobeys will be thrown into the lion's den. Let me go on. It says, so the king issued this decree, O king, and make it unconditional, as if written in stone, like all the laws of the Medes and the Persians. King Darius said, this is great. People only can pray to me. His ego was boosted up. He felt good about himself, and he signed it away. He didn't care who it affected. He signed it away. Look at this. When Daniel learned that the decree had been signed and posted, he continued to pray. Look at that. Just as he always done. See the habit there? There's a habit that he had. He had a practice of praying. He had a practice that he built up that was repetitive. Always, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do before. So what if you look at it and you zoom out and you only look at the lion's den, you think that was the only incident that made him successful. When you look at his career, you say, well, maybe he was a little successful in his career. When you look at those things, you see those two pieces of information. But when you look back and you peel back the curtain, his daily practice was to pray. I believe it was this keystone practice, this keystone habit that actually was the kickstart of everything else. You see, there are certain keystone habits that you can develop that'll make you successful in other arenas of life. Like for me, one of the things that I did about probably now going about 10 years, maybe even longer, I committed to read at least a minimum of one book a month. Minimum of one book a month. I typically read 2 to 3 books a month. But I committed to reading one book a month. And that's a keystone habit for me. Because when I commit to reading a book a month, what it does for me is it tells me, Peter, don't stop there. Make sure that you're not only reading a book a month, it helps me get into the Word every day. It helps me it reminds me of, Peter, are you demonstrating the leadership skills that you profess? It reminds me of that one keystone habit tells me and triggers and reminds me of all the other things that I need to keep in discipline. Are you making sure that you're bringing your best every day? Because I decided to do one thing, it's now the trigger for all the remaining things. What in your life that you have as a keystone habit that triggers everything else? So for instance, one of the things that someone taught me when I was going to this church in Michigan, and the pastor was like, you need to develop a daily habit of just getting into the Word. And he would spend an hour. He says, there was a book we were reading, Can you pray with me an hour? This is Jesus' statement to his disciples. Can you pray with me an hour? And I'm like, man, that's hard. That's difficult. And I know you're looking at me going, well, you're the pastor. I'm the pastor now. I wasn't the pastor then. And they were like, yeah, can you pray with me an hour? And I'm like, man, that's hard. And he said, Peter, you can do it. It's just making sure that you start somewhere, and just keep it up and add a minute, make it 2 minutes, make it 10 minutes, and just keep adding to it. And so I started this habit, and I still do it to this day, to where when I get up in the morning, first thing I do, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and the first thing I start saying is, Lord, as I'm going to the bathroom, take anything out of me that's not like you. As I go and I start washing my face, I say, Lord, cleanse me, make me just shine as bright. Make sure that I put a smile on my face that others going to find endearing and welcoming. As I'm washing my face, as I'm brushing my teeth, I'm saying, Lord, see the practice, see the habit? As I'm brushing my teeth, Lord, make sure that any words I say is going to bring life, purity. And I'm starting to pray. By the time I'm dressed, I've already prayed an hour. When I'm in the shower, I'm like, wash me, Lord, wash me, Lord. I'm doing all this stuff, and all these things. I'm making a practice of prayer. I've incorporated into a daily routine to where it becomes a habit. So if it takes me an hour to get dressed. I know sometimes Maria gets upset with me because she's like, man, you take longer than me. And I'm like, well, I had to pray a little bit longer today. All the ladies are going to say amen on that one. This is a keystone habit for Daniel. He began to pray every day. It says, just as he had always done. Look at what he says. It goes on to the next verse. He says, he continued to pray just as he always done 3 times a day. He knelt there in prayer, thanking and praising God. On my way to work, I would be sitting in the car and I'm looking into my windshield wiper, my rear mirror, and I'm sitting there going, Lord, all the things that I missed, all the people that I've hurt, all the people that I didn't know about that I could have been more aware of, Lord God, bring them back to my remembrance. Praying as I'm going through my day so that it becomes a lifestyle of prayer. It's not an event that I'm looking to accomplish. It's a practice that I'm actually carrying out. Some of you are sitting there going, Pastor Maria said about her struggle with prayer last week. She had a struggle with praying aloud, to where she started writing it all down. There are different ways to do that. And so what we can do is we can build a regimen and say, how can I add this to my routine or to my daily habit and make it a keystone habit that triggers other things. Some people have said, I heard this one pastor said that he every time he flosses his teeth, it's a keystone habit. He wants to floss every day so that it reminds him that he's disciplined. And then he tells, he declares 3 things that he knows that God says in his word about him when he finished flossing his teeth. And then he goes further and further. He continues to add to that. But if he forgets to floss, he forgets to declare the 3 things that God says about him. He forgets to do other things because the keystone habit was broken. And so what can you put in your life where a keystone habit begins to trigger all these other things for you, that you can move towards the goals and the aspirations and the vision that God has put in your life? I was at my mother's this weekend, and she said to me, she goes, man, I stopped in last night, and she says, man, you are a busy man. I don't know how you get done all the things you have to accomplish. She goes, you're just so busy. I don't know how you fit it in. And I look at it. Well, I said, I compartmentalize. I said, I compartmentalize my life. I take this section, this section, this section, and I know I have my calendar out. I have it blocked off, and I take one step at a time. I focus on one thing at a time because you really can't multitask. That's a myth. It's been proven over and over again as a myth. You can't multitask. But if you could put your 100% focus on one thing, you can probably maximize the productivity of that event and therefore get it done quicker so that it moves you on to the next thing. And I said, and because I stay focused in that way, I'm able to move one step, 1 inch at a time, one small thing at a time, moving forward, forward, and forward until it's done. These are habits. These are habits. What, by the way, not just a habit, it's not just a goal, it's a system that I'm creating. You see the difference? I'm creating a system that triggers other things. Do you know that's how God created us? Do you know you have a respiratory system? Do you know you have a cardiovascular system? These systems happen so that one thing triggers the next thing. You have a digestive system so that when you actually smell food, your mouth automatically starts to water. That you automatically, your body conditions itself to start to be ready, to get ready to be filled. And as you eat, other processes start kicking in automatically. Why? Because it's a system. If you can develop systems, it'll help you accomplish the goal and reach the goal that you wish to reach. It's not about just doing one thing, but having the one thing trigger the ability to do other things. That's what tithing does. People go, well, I tithed once. But tithing, it's a system. It's when you do it and you continue to put God first in that way, it begins to show up in other arenas of your life. He says, I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a. It's a system that is creating things. So small daily habits over time will change not only who you are, it'll change where you are. It'll change where you are. I was looking at Jimmy. Every time I come in here and he comes in here and I see him just dwindling down to nothing, I could tell he's going to the gym. And it didn't happen one day. He goes, Peter, I went to the gym today. He kept going to the gym. And he says, every morning I get up, he goes, I 6 o'clock or whatever time I get up, he says, I realize I got to go to the gym, and I'm going to the gym. He set a system in place to get him up, to continue to proceed with doing the things he's doing. And it ain't going to happen at one time. But because he continued to do that small little habit, incorporated in his daily routine, that he now, the alarm goes off, he probably don't have to think about it anymore. He just get up. That's just what he does. Why? Because 40% of what we do is done unconsciously because it's a system. By the way, this works in the bad way as well. There are certain things that you're doing that you said, I got to get rid of it, I got to stop doing, but you developed a system around keeping doing it. And if you want to stop it, you got to sit there and go, I got to change my system. So how do you create a new habit? How do I create a system? How do I get out of this loop? There's a thing called the habit loop. And I've been talking about it. I've been just been making you aware of this system. There's a cue. There's an alarm that goes off. You know, before I used to hear that alarm, I used to go downstairs, get my cup of coffee, and I used to binge watch Netflix, all the shows I missed until I was ready to get dressed for work. See, that's the routine. The cue was the alarm. I got up. My routine was to get my cup of coffee, sit down. Some of us watch CNN and watch Fox News, and we watch all these news channels, and we get filled with garbage, and then we wonder why we're cantankerous for the rest of the day and agitated. Because the routine is you get your coffee and you watch the news. And for some reason, that makes you feel okay to go to work. To hear more bad news and to face more people with bad conditions, right? And your whole day spirals from there. It's a routine. It's a habit loop. And the key to this habit loop is not just to look at the cue and what's cueing me and stuff like that and what's causing me the routine, is not to replace everything. Because this is what a lot of us try to do. We just sit there and go, I'm just going to stop everything. No, you don't need to stop everything. What you need to do is interrupt the routine. You need to interrupt the routine. How do I interrupt the routine? I take what the cue can stay the same, the reward can stay the same. You know, for many times I would get up in the middle of the night and I would, because I couldn't sleep, I would get right up and I would go down and I start strolling through the cupboards, looking for some cookies and looking for some snacks and looking for stuff. And then Maria was like, she recognized that was a pattern of mine, right? Getting up and night eating. And so what she would do is she would make sure there was no cookies and no baked goods and nothing but fruit and vegetables in the house. She interrupted my routine. She didn't change the cue. She knew I'm still going to get up. But she ensured that which I was seeking was no longer available. To change the routine so that, hey, give them a protein drink. She even said, take a protein drink, drink a protein drink, and go back to bed. Do whatever, something like that. She said, but don't eat the junk. I was like, huh. Then I start getting in my car and making sure it's in my car. So I got a backup plan. So the key is to change the routine, to replace whatever that is that you keep going in that cookie jar, to replace it maybe with some slow carbs, different type of things, so that you can then feel like at least I can feel comfortable. I just wanted my belly to have something so I can go back to sleep. That's the reward, to get back to sleep. So what is it that I'm going to replace it with? What is it I'm going to interrupt that routine with that I can continue to move forward? That's what we have to do. I'll let that stay up just a little bit longer. Y'all can take out your cameras and take a picture of that. Because you can't extinguish a bad habit. You can only change it. I told you this a couple of weeks ago, that scientists have already said, they study the brain, and they say you can't extinguish a bad habit, but you can rewire your thinking towards it. You can rewire the roadmap in your brain that constantly looks for that one thing to satisfy it, to change it. And you have to do it by implementing something else. Can't just stop. You have to input something else in there. So what am I going to do to insert that so that I can move towards my goal? So for some of us, we realize that, yeah, I want that promotion. I want to do better. But yet we continue to watch, This Is Us every Tuesday night. And then we watch Grey's Anatomy on Thursday night. So when you take 2 hours out of your week right there, where instead of watching This Is Us, when This Is Us comes on, I'm going to take out a book and read. I'm going to study for something for that hour. And then instead of going for Grey's Anatomy the next night, I'm going to study for something that night, or I'm going to talk to somebody about something I just read. And I'm interrupting the routine, so I'm making my way towards the goal and the destination that God has outlined for me. This sounds simple. This is basic. But guess what? Successful people do consistently what we or other people do occasionally. Michael Johnson, a couple years ago, he picked up on this pattern of mine. At every beginning of the year, I try to find a new thing to learn. I'm not successful in learning it every year, a new thing every year, but he picked up on this, and I told him I wanted to learn Spanish, and about 3-4 years ago now, and he says, wow, that's a good goal. He says, I'm going to make that my goal, and he started finding things to put into his routine on his way to work, and before he went to bed to learn Spanish. He started he didn't have to buy it. He went to the library. He didn't have to invest in anything. Went to the library, got lessons from the library, and just started listening to it during lunch and listening to it in the morning, listening to it. And then he started practicing it. When he would see Spanish-speaking people on the praise team, he'd come and say hello. He started saying words in Spanish to them. And he says, now I'm getting pretty good at hearing it. I can hear it. I'm starting to learn how to say it. I'm getting better and better at it, because he developed a routine, a system to help support him to reach the goal that he had set out. Successful people do consistently what other people do occasionally. We need to insert a routine, and we need to make it obvious. So if you want to be more generous, you want to be more kind, you want to be seen as more generous, then put a note card on your desk to say, I'm going to write a thank you note every day to somebody. Put it on your desk. At the end of your day, you put your note card right in the center with a pen, so that when you sit down, it's already there. Make it obvious. That's the cue. If you want to say, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to pray every morning, then what you do is you sit there and say, all right, I don't want to wake up anybody, so so this is what's prevented me from praying. So you know what you do? You say, okay, I'm going to make sure that the coffee, when I get my coffee cup, I'm going to get my coffee cup, and I'm going to go sit over here to pray. And every day you create your space so that you can be over there to pray as often as you want. And you say, I'm not, it may be 5 minutes. You may say, I want to pray at least 20 minutes. Well, what am I going to do to get there? I start with 5. Make it easy. Start with 5. Do a 5-finger prayer. You know what the 5-finger prayer is? 5-finger prayer. I know somebody can help me here. So the thumb represents, let's go to the other. Yeah. The thumb represents the people closest to you. So I'm going to pray for the people closest to me. That's what the thumb represents. So I'm going to sit in my chair and I'm going to pray for the people closest to me. I'm going to pray for 1 minute just about the people closest to me. See, I'm about to get you a 5-minute prayer in here in a minute, right? So then what is the pointer finger? The people that speak into your life. People that speak into your life. Who are all the people that I'm going to pray for them? Teachers and all those that speak. Parents. People that speak. Trusted friends. Pray for them. What about the big finger? All the leaders. I'm going to pray for government leaders, whether I like them or not. In fact, if you don't like them, pray for them even more. I'm going to pray a minute for them. What's your ring finger? The weakest finger in your hand? Those that are less fortunate, less sick, those that are in need, those that need for, that's who I'm going to pray for. Those that are homeless, those that have what I don't have, I'm going to pray for all of them. Those I want to help, but I don't know how to help, I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to pray for 1 minute. And then the pinky finger is the smallest finger on your hand, and it's there to identify that that's the position of your heart. You should be humble. Now, Lord, I'm the least of these. Lord, I'm praying for me. 5 minutes. I'm going to pray 1 minute on each. And I'm going to make sure I set it to small, easy, obvious habit. Routine that I can start building into my system every day. And if I can do that, then I may say 10 minutes. I'm going to put 2 minutes on each one of them. Simple. You see how we're doing it? Just building simple, easy, obvious solutions to adapt our routine. That's just in prayer. Some of us are saying, I want to commit to reading the Bible. I don't know anything about the Bible. Well, guess what? Download a Bible app and choose the Bible verse of the day. Just read it. It'll come to you. It'll ping. Just read what it shows up on the screen. Then you make it daring and start saying, maybe I'll read a chapter. Make it daring and say, you know what? I'm going to read a book a month. I'm going to read one of the books of the Bible a month. There's 66, so it's going to take you a while. But at least you're moving, you're building a habit. There's Bible in a year. There's a book called The Bible in 1 year. And you can commit to saying, I'm going to read that in 1 year. There are plans out there. You can do something. Make it obvious. Make it easy. That means the Bible need to be on my pillow. So when I make my bed, I put the Bible on my pillow, so that's the first thing I grab before I go to bed. See, I'm making it obvious. I'm making it easy so that I can put it into my routine. Or better yet, when I put out my clothes to wear, I put it on the top of my clothes to wear. So before I get dressed, before I get in the shower, I put it next to the toilet. Whatever it is, make it obvious, make it easy. You say this, you make this declaration. You're going to name your cue and then the action. When I go to the bathroom, I want to pick up my Bible. See that? That's your declaration. When the alarm clock goes off, I'm putting on my gym clothes and I'm going to the gym. That's the action. See what happens? I name it. When I get in the shower, I'm going to pray, Lord, wash me. Put your spirit all over me today. When I do this, then what is the action? When this cue happens, this action will follow. See that? When this cue happens, this action will follow. That's how we build a system to move forward, to move towards the goals, the vision that God has given. It's not rocket science. In fact, the scripture tells us this. People say, well, Peter, that's not biblical. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It says in Zechariah 4:10, it says, do not despise small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. He says the small steps you take, don't despise it. Don't discount it. Don't think of it as small and little and it doesn't matter. He says, do not despise small beginnings. Never underestimate how God can do something big through one small habit. Those little small things build momentum that can change your identity. If I'm not successful, when I hit my goal somewhere in the future, I'm successful when I'm honoring God today. So what I'm saying here is this, is that a lot of people think I'm not successful because I'm not hitting my goal. I'm not reaching my goal. I'm not accomplishing it because that goal is somewhere in the future. It's when I get there, then I'll be successful. But you're redefining success by the small daily habits that you put in place. You're saying, I'm successful because I got up today, I put on my clothes. I didn't get out to the gym yet, but I put on my gym clothes. That's a success. Tomorrow, I'm successful because I got up today, I put on my gym clothes, and I went to the gym. I didn't get on a piece of equipment. I ate my bagel and drank my coffee, but I got out. That's success. You see, I'm redefining success by these small little increments, these small little systems that I'm starting to build. It's not when I reach the goal, it's by starting the little disciplines today. And the reward is that I did it. That's the thing. I got that piece accomplished. I got my coffee. I sat in my chair. I fell back to sleep. But I'm there. And then tomorrow, I got my coffee. I sat in my seat. And I said, Lord, I thank you. I start praying for those people closest to me. I spent 5 minutes there. And now I'm defining success. Not because I can pray an hour, but I can pray for 5 minutes. And I couldn't pray for 5 minutes before. You see, that's what makes you successful. And by doing these little small habits, one at a time, one bit at a time, it's going to start transforming your life. Soon you'll be praying an hour. And people say, how do you pray for an hour? I don't know when it started. But I can tell you, God partners with people. I tell you, well, that's what I did with tithing. I started tithing. I was like, man, I ain't tithing. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'll start with 3%. Then I was like, 3%? And then God started joining me with my 3%. I was like, whoa, I'll go with 5%. He started joining me. And I started noticing no difference and starting being blessed with 5%. Oh, whoa, wait a minute here. Then I started 10%. And people say, well, how come you've been tithing on? Yeah, I'm a tither. I'm a tither. You should be tithing too. Well, how did you do it? How did you know what? One little bit at a time. Based on who you want to become, what one habit do you need to start? What system do you need to be putting in place today? What system do you want to be put in place today? Based on the habit or who it is that you want to become. Not the goal, but who it is you want to become. You want to become a tither? You want to be a tither? What is that system that you're going to be putting in place to become a tither? You want to be a prayer warrior? What is the system that you're going to be putting in place to become a prayer warrior? You want to be in depth in the word? People sit there and go, how could you decipher the word like that? I want to be able to do that. I don't know the word. Well, start reading. You got to start opening the book. That's where to start. What habit are you going to be putting in place and system that's going to reinforce that so that you can be adept in God's word? What practice are you going to start doing at work to distinguish yourself above everyone else, that you're bringing your best. It's not just about the spiritual. It's who you want to be. It's who you want to become. What are you going to do to start building that and making that part of your system? Then people don't say, well, that's just a one-off. That's just luck. They say, that's who he is. That's the way they are. That's what God is calling us to do. That's why when you look at these dominoes, a domino only takes one. Then the next day, another one fall over. Next moment, another one will fall over until you get momentum. And that momentum will drive significant change. Why don't you stand with me? Hallelujah.
Wasn't that an incredible message? Did it speak to you? Did you feel that? Did you feel that in your spirit? I felt it. I felt it. Now it's time for us to make sure that we apply it, right? We receive the word and then we apply it. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, because guess what? On there you can watch previous sermons and catch all of our videos from our services on Sunday. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook to stay connected with us. We have a community there. We uplift each other, we encourage each other, and we hold each other accountable. So please be inspired this week, apply the word, and we look forward to seeing you at our next service.